On this spacecraft is these very, very large solar arrays, which, by the way, do spin even in this model or are articulated. And those are the solar arrays that will produce, at least as soon as we launch and when we're close to Earth, up to 20 kilowatts of the power needed to power everything on the vehicle. All of the instrumentation, engineering and science instrumentation, as well as the propulsion system. This is a very unique, not unique mission, but a mission that uses solar electric propulsion, right? And the bulk of the spacecraft is based on the solar electric propulsion chassis built by Maxar, who's over here. Mike Fox, a representative from Maxar here, who will be down on the floor. You can ask him questions later. But they've developed that for their comm satellites, and we've partnered with them and adopted or adapted their basic spacecraft design to go into deep space by making a very specific set of augmentations and changes to it, and also to allow it to accommodate the science instruments. We're going all the way out to the asteroid Psyche, out in the outer edge of the asteroid belt, the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. We've got a long way to go, 2.5 billion miles, right? That's 10,000 trips to the moon. And the solar electric propulsion is a very efficient means of doing that. On the inside of the body of the spacecraft here, there's a central cylinder, which is the main structural element of the spacecraft. And inside that are 7 tanks filled with a little over 1,000 kilograms of xenon gas. Xenon is a very heavy, noble gas. The power generated by these large solar panels goes in, is converted by power control system, and then used to fire and power what you see down here, both sides of the spacecraft, these Hall effect thrusters. This is our first planetary mission using Hall effect thrusters, which basically create an electromagnetic field that takes those xenon ion particles, each little ion, and fires them out. And we've got these little T-Rex arms down here that we can move and point those so that we can fly the spacecraft in whichever direction we want to go, while simultaneously keeping our solar panels pointed at the sun. So you kind of think of it as going to be a little blue haze, a little blue mist coming out of those engines. Unlike a chemical propulsion mission that many of you are familiar with, where we have a combustible propellant that you fire several times on a journey, say, to Mars or Jupiter, electric propulsion is very different. We are going to be propulsing almost the entire time. After we launch, the engines come on and stay on for the vast majority of the time. The only time primarily that we'll turn it off before we get to Psyche is for a period as we coast by Mars, to also do a gravity assist to further give us the delta V and the acceleration that we need to make it all the way out to the asteroid. So that'll be a 5.5-year mission to get there, and 2 years, 26 months of the science mission where we will go into orbit around the satellite. So it's a very unique first-time use of these thrusters in deep space. Every time we're going to be launching on a Falcon Heavy. It's a first-time collaboration between Maxar, which is a major player in the comm satellite world, right? And we merge that with the capabilities of JPL and our deep space expertise and how to control deep space spacecraft and the communications necessary for deep space, et cetera, to accomplish this mission. So it's going to be a real unique merging of that. Like I said, the vehicle, when you see it downstairs, we're in the folded up configuration. So all these panels, the two sides flip together and they fit. You'll notice that each one of these panels is the size of the side of the spacecraft. So they'll all tuck in. And that's the configuration you launch in. That's the configuration you'll see the vehicle. You won't necessarily get to see all the guts inside because it's all closed up, but I can promise you if you look down in the back here, you'll also see nitrogen tanks for a nitrogen cold gas system, which augments our propulsion system, primarily of the xenon. If you folks look at this model later, you'll see the main central cylinder that I spoke about before, in which the 7 tanks for the xenon are So that's just kind of a quick snapshot of the overall vehicle, and you'll see it downstairs. I'm very excited that you could all make it here today. So thank you very much. And I will turn it over to Lindy while I go get gowned up, and I will take all your questions down on the floor. Thank you very much, everybody.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindy Elkins-Stanton. I'm the principal investigator of the Psyche mission. So excited to be here today with all of you. We've come such a long way. One of the most fundamental questions that we have as humans is, how did life arise on the Earth? What is it about the Earth that makes it habitable? And one of the key characteristics of our Earth is the metal core, which gives us our magnetic field, which shields our atmosphere and all the other great things the magnetic field does for us, including giving us auroras and the beautiful night sky. And it's long been humans' dream to go to the metal core of our Earth. I mean, ask Jules Verne. And it's impossible. We're never going to get to our metal core. The pressure is too high, the temperature is too high, the technology is impossible. And yet there are metal cores inside of all the rocky planets. Mercury and Venus and Mars and also the moon have got metal cores. But there's one way in our solar system that we can look at a metal core, and that is by going to this asteroid, 16 Psyche. Of the well over 1 million asteroids that we know of, there are only about 9 that seem to be made largely of metal or have a metal surface, as far as we know so far. And Psyche is by far the biggest one. And so we like to say that we're going to outer space to visit inner space, because this is the one way that humans can see a metal core. And it also fills in a really key ingredient in the creation of rocky planets. If you think about the asteroid belt, it's really the shrapnel that's left over after the creation of our rocky planets. It's the material that got stranded and never really incorporated into the planets that grew up to what we have now. And so if you think of the Earth as a finished cake, all the ingredients have been liquefied, they were melted, they were whipped together into the metal core form, and it's left with a rocky exterior. But what were the ingredients? What were the rock and the metal and the water and the ices and everything that went into making our Earth? You know, the equivalent for the metaphor would be, what are the eggs in the flour that ended up making the planet that we're on? So we visited bodies that are made of rock, rocky asteroids, we've visited icy asteroids, we've looked at comets, and the last characteristic, the last kind of category of object that we've never visited as a species in our solar system is bodies made of metal. And so this is primary exploration, a new kind of object that humans have never seen before. And this is almost the biggest thrill of the whole mission to me, is that we're going to visit an unknown object. There's an aspect of writing the proposals, and of course, as you know, we went through a 3-year competition to win this mission. We had to write a 240-page step 1 proposal, and then we were down selected to 5. We were so lucky. Then we got to write a 1,000-page concept study report. And there's a place where we're encouraged to write, what is the percentage improvement that your measurements with your spacecraft will make over existing measurements? And infinity, 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 because there are no measurements of what we're going to see. We're going to see something completely new. We don't even have photographs of this body. We have shape models that are models of what we think that it's shaped like, and maybe where some big impact craters are. We have data that we've taken from Earth and from Hubble and from James Webb, but we don't know what it actually looks like. So we're all going to be discovering that at the same time. And in fact, we've already written the software pipeline such that the pictures that come back from our imagers are going to be put on the internet within 30 minutes of our receipt. We are not editing them. We are not censoring them in any way. We're going to let the whole world look at the same time at the same things that we're looking at, because that is what spaceflight is for. It's to inspire all of us to look beyond our dusty boots and see our place in the universe. And so I'll just say finally, one of the really unbelievable things as a scientist working on this mission is, how do you plan a science instrument suite to take measurements of a virtually unknown body? And remember that even at its closest, Psyche is more than 3 times farther away from us than Mars. It's often closer to Jupiter than it is to the Earth. And so the headlines that you've read about Psyche threatening the Earth or making us rich are hilarious. I realize they're great headlines, they get readers, but there's no truth in them whatsoever. It's very far away. It's never coming to us. And so how do you plan how to measure? That was a great scientific process to decide what we're going to measure. So the first thing is, of course, we need to be able to see the body, so that's what the cameras are for. Then we want to measure magnetic field. What we hope is that Psyche has recorded the magnetic field from its early beginning, and that it's kept a history of that magnetic field. It won't be active today, but it might have recorded a history. So magnetometers, and then we need to know the composition of Psyche, what is it made of? And so our gamma ray and neutron spectrometer, which you'll see shining in its silvery pure brilliance up on the boom today, that will tell us the composition of the surface of Psyche. And then we'll get its gravity field using the radio communications. And the irony of it is that this beautiful spacecraft that is going to get us to our asteroid, I mean, imagine, we've had over 2,000 people work on this project so far. We have hundreds of people working on it right now. We've been working on it for 12 years. And this beautiful object, the beautiful spacecraft, is going to get our science instruments all the way out there. And then once we're there, the spacecraft kind of becomes our adversary, because we need the magnetometer and the gamma ray and neutron spectrometer to measure the asteroid, not the spacecraft. So that's why they're up on booms, so that the instruments are as far away from the spacecraft field as possible, so that we can discover what this crazy object is. And so we're really looking forward to this first kind of exploration of its body with this beautiful spacecraft and these hundreds of people who've come together to make this happen. And we'll all be discovering at once, all of us humans, what Psyche is at the same time. So thank you very much. I look forward to answering your questions later on.
Good morning, my name is Titusville. I'm the project technologist for the Deep Space Optical Communications, which is being hosted by the Psyche spacecraft. I'm going to shift gears a little bit from the wonderful science that we really talked about. We're about technology. In parallel with doing all the science, we have to keep updating our technology so that we can enable future science missions with high resolution data, with exploration when you have to send humans to Mars and so forth. And in order to do that, we need faster communication. So we need to get back information much faster. We'd like to have streaming videos come by. If you recall, I don't know, some of you may be too young, but we used to have something called a dial-up modem in the days. Dial-up but from that now, look at us today. We have high speed. We can stream video. We can stream multiple streams of video and all that. Basically, for outer space, we want to have a virtual presence, and in order to do that, we need faster communications. And we've been working for a number of years now to develop laser communications to be faster. And why is laser communications faster? Mainly because a laser beam is much narrower than a radio beam. So from Mars distances, a laser beam footprint on Earth is about 2,000 kilometers, whereas a radio beam is larger than the diameter of the Earth. So when you have a narrow beam, you have much more power, you can pack much more power density into it, and it translates into a much larger number of bits of information. Of course, the challenge in doing that is that now that you have a narrower beam, you have to point it very accurately, because otherwise you can completely miss the target. So the laser communications technology demonstration, DSAW, that's being hosted by the Psyche mission, is really about two things. It's first of all, can we point the laser beam back to Earth? And second of all, can we use the laser beam as a carrier of high rate data? So those are the two things that we're going to demonstrate. Our mission, our primary mission actually is going to be during the first 2 years of the cruise. So by about close to mid to end of 2025, our mission will be over. And over that duration, we expect to cover distances that are equivalent to the distance that Mars has. Because our near-term target for infusing this technology is a Mars orbiter, which will enable humans going to Mars and much higher resolution instruments on Mars. So that's what Deep Space Optical Communications is about. And later on, Dr. Malcolm Wright, who's here with me, and myself, we try to answer all your questions.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Hall, and I'm a NASA mission manager with NASA's Launch Services Program. You've heard those great things about the cool spacecraft that we're flying to Psyche. I know you're as excited as I am. But I want to tell you a little bit about my team and the team of people that work to make sure that we get Psyche up to space and where it needs to go. The Launch Services Program, basically, we marry the spacecraft requirements with a launch vehicle and make sure that all of their environments that the spacecraft is going to see when it takes a ride on that amazing Falcon Heavy launch vehicle. We make sure that everything is checked and rechecked. A team of many people called the Mission Integration Team. We all work together. These are technical experts from vast different areas of technical expertise. And we work closely from anything from the torquing of the bolts of the integrated stack to the launch vehicle, all the way to the trajectory to get through space, to get to that amazing asteroid that's in between Mars and Jupiter. So it's a lot of different people working together to make that happen. We work closely with the SpaceX team, who is building the Falcon Heavy launch vehicle. As we speak, they're readying it and preparing it for this mission. So a couple mission details. We're launching on October 5th from historic Launch Complex 39A here at the Kennedy Space Center. And like Henry already mentioned, this is the first Falcon Heavy that NASA has purchased. Now, there have been 7 previous Falcon Heavy launches that SpaceX has successfully performed. So we will be the 8th of the Falcon Heavy launches. Like I said, 10:38 in the morning will be the launch time out at KSC. And the interesting thing for seeing a Falcon Heavy launch, and this is the 102nd launch that the Launch Services Program has done. But the Falcon Heavy launch will go up, and not only is it a great show to watch that launch, but then the side cores will come back to Earth in landing zones 1 and 2 over on the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. So, Space Force Station, I'm sorry. So it's quite a show. We look forward to seeing you all out there, and we're very privileged to be able to give a ride to Psyche into space. And we'll talk to you later.
Okay, that was our overview, everyone. So now we're going to start sending groups down. Group 1. Yep. And then, very shortly as we get group 1, group 2 will be able to do interviews. Yeah. Yeah. I think don't know. Yes.
Bueno, espero que me puedan escuchar. Pues estoy cambiando los micrófonos. Terminó la presentación en vivo del equipo, parte del equipo de la misión Psyche, donde nos dieron una descripción, nos explicaron sobre el lanzamiento, los objetivos científicos básicamente que va a tener Psyche. Estamos yendo a un lugar absolutamente nuevo del cual no tenemos idea y cómo han intentado desarrollar los instrumentos científicos en base a eso. Cómo desarrollar una nave en la cual tenemos que descubrir cosas que no sabemos que existen. Entonces eso es lo interesante de esta misión. Es un asteroide con el cual sabemos que tiene características metálicas y que puede ser desde el centro o el núcleo de un potencial planeta que nunca se llegó a desarrollar, o puede ser mismo un cuerpo metálico que pueda haber venido de otro sistema solar. Así que muchísima expectativa con respecto a esta misión, que lanza el 5 de octubre en un Falcon Heavy desde aquí, desde el Centro Espacial desde el Centro Espacial Kennedy. Y ahora, como verán, yo estoy en vivo acá, esto no hay nada seteado, ¿eh? Vamos a ir en grupos, hay 4 grupos diferentes, vamos a ir al clean room, abajo, donde está la nave. Si ustedes recuerdan, yo hace 1 año y medio estuve aquí para Lucy. Es el mismo proceso, vamos a pasar a lo que ellos le llaman el airlock, como si fuera un lugar donde está uno fuera a salir a un lugar vacío donde hay diferentes presiones. Obviamente no es el caso, pero por un tema de limpieza y por un tema que tenemos que tener absolutamente todo inmaculado y tenemos que ponernos los trajes correspondientes para no contaminar el área. Vamos a pasar a un salón donde nos vamos a cambiar y después de ahí vamos a poder entrar a lo que ellos le llaman el airlock, donde está la nave Psyche propiamente dicha. Así que, es más, voy a sacar esto de acá para darles un panorama de cómo se ve todo por aquí. Muchos escuditos en la mesa. La principal investigadora de la misión. Después voy a ver si puedo hablar con ella. Ahora vamos a tener una chance de poder hacer entrevistas y tengo algunas planeadas, así que vamos a ver. Y quiero ver si lo puedo hacer en vivo y si puedo estar en vivo abajo en la zona donde está la nave, para ver si se las puedo mostrar en vivo. Si no, por supuesto voy a grabar y después preparo el video para mostrárselos. Voy a poner esto de vuelta acá.
Yeah, my wife, we're going like group 2 here first, so. Just trying to make sure everything's okay.
Gracias, Zeus Froilán. Y gracias, Fernando. Como siempre, si yo puedo traerles en vivo todo lo que está pasando, mejor, y ver cómo trabajamos. Fíjense cómo la prensa está tratando de hacer notas con... Ahí está. Van cambiando el ángulo de la nave. Y no sé si para ir para abajo, cuando nos toque nuestro grupo, voy a tener que cortar el vivo y volver a crear otro vivo abajo si es que me dejan hacer vivo. Yo creo que sí, pero si no lo grabo y después se los cuento.
Still finished early, so the West Coast person.
Oh, it feels really for the East Coast though.
Yeah.
You were annoying me.
All right, I'll look like I'll split the difference. That's perfect. Okay, great.
Bueno, como verán, se fue todo. Los maté con ese movimiento, perdón.
As you all know, we were originally scheduled to launch last year, and COVID and staffing and all the issues that we've all been facing as a world has caused us to slip for a year. And so allowing myself to feel that overwhelming excitement, which I know is going to happen as the rocket takes off in October. It's been slowly coming. I've been hesitant, just stay the course, stay serious, don't be overwhelmed by optimism, make sure everything's happening. But it's creeping in for me, and I think everybody on the team, we're beginning to feel like this is really happening. We've done it. It's such a huge achievement, and so excitement is definitely building.
And for viewers that maybe haven't tracked the mission as closely, just why would you tell them to care and just the overwhelming benefits we're going to have when we come back?
Yeah, hundreds of people build this spacecraft that is so complicated that no single person understands everything about how it works, and yet as a team, we can make this thing work in space. No repair person in space, it has to work flawlessly like so many other spacecraft have before. If we can do that, if we can create teams of that kind of effectiveness, we can solve our problems here on Earth. And so using space as an inspiration for solving earthly problems and for showing us what humans are capable of, that is really the purpose of what we're doing, and that's what I want to share.
Can you talk a little bit for me about the solar panels on the side of that? I just think that is so cool, and it's something I haven't really seen. Can you just go into detail a little bit about that?
So beautiful. I'm obsessed with these solar panels. In fact, they are so beautiful up close. I actually want to get giant high-res photos of individual panels and just print them out and put them on my wall. They're so beautiful. So these gorgeous, gorgeous panels, they're 5 on each side, and they fold up and they fold right against the spacecraft so that after separation from the rocket, they will unfold into these big wings that are almost 25 meters across. So they're the size of a singles tennis court if you were to lay this down. And at the distance from the sun that the Earth is, they create 20 kilowatts of electrical energy from the solar power. And although that power gets less and less the further we go from the sun, it is enough to fuel everything the spacecraft does. Because the whole spacecraft runs off the solar electricity. So the propulsion system and the communications and the heating and the cooling and all the science instruments, all of them run off the electricity from those solar panels.
Is that the future? Would you like to see that on more spacecrafts?
Yeah. Well, you know, there are different uses for different kinds of propulsion. It has to do with how far from the sun you're going and how much time you have and how much electricity that your scientific instruments need. And so I would say there's a place for many different kinds of propulsion, but this is just a beautiful one. Yeah.
And then as far as goals for coming back, what are you most hopeful to see happen?
You know, I think what I'm supposed to say is that I'm really excited to test our primary science hypothesis, which I am. Is Psyche the part of the metal core of a little planetesimal, a little tiny planet that formed in the first moments of our solar system and was not incorporated into the growing rocky planets? Or is it some other kind of material? But my most fond hope is that it ends up being something unexpected and that it kind of breaks our hypothesis and we get to learn something entirely unexpected. And frankly, that always happens when we go to space. We learn things that we never anticipated learning because what is out there in our solar system and in our universe actually surpasses our imaginations for what we might find. So that's what I'm most hoping.
Let me just get you on camera and say and spell first and last name, so I get that right, and then your title.
I'm Lindy Elkins Tanton. I'm the principal investigator of the NASA Psyche mission. And my first name is spelled Lindy, and my last name is ELKINS-TANTON.
Okay. Lindy, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your interest. I really appreciate it.
This is so cool.
Killed it. Do you guys want
Yeah,
to do Malcolm?
I would love that. I mean, I don't want to like take everything over though. If other
Stand
people
here.
want to do
Well,
questions.
everyone will have a chance to do
Okay.
interviews, but we're just doing group 2 first. So
Yeah, come on over.
about 10:20, you guys will be headed down, and then group 3.
Is the
Feel free to
spacecraft
take
in the
over.
right place for you guys? Do you want it differently in the frame?
You guys are taller than it, so I'm not really picking.
Okay, so you're not even getting it.
No,
Okay.
so we did get some shots of it though. It's beautiful. Good. Do you want to come in anywhere or? We're gonna kind of do the same thing. You just kind of look at this. We got that now. Hold the mic for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, not enough. It's too beautiful.
So a little bit of detail of your specific role with
Okay, so we're doing our goal for the DSOC system. So we're the secondary payload on the spacecraft. And the goal was to demonstrate technology for basic communications. My role was to really develop the flight laser system that's going to fly. So we worked with the vendor that built it, as well as worked with the ground system, which is on the system on both sides. High power laser on the ground, kilowatt system that shoots up to the spacecraft, pointing the spacecraft down. So my part was to make sure that the laser system was delivered to meet the requirements, and it was what we needed to demonstrate the link, as well as to show on the ground side work and support the oxygen as well.
And why is it important for us as we create the want to explore more into space? Why does our communication need to be set?
Yeah, so what we've been relying on now in the system, which our communications, which has been great one with us all ranging up in space, all those areas. But like in the system, maybe people have people advice and sort of connection times. So right now we're managing 100 different missions at once. And so we can shorten the time of engagement by using a high data rate, you can send more people movements out of the system. And so it's sort of like going from dial-up to broadband. Syllabus per second, now you want to go download video. Gigabit level. And so being able to demonstrate examples of the latest and enable. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Like you see, so this is the DSOC system here. It's actually half enclosed inside the spacecraft and half on the outside. So the system is a laser with some electronic module. Then there's a whole telescope, a 22 centimeter optical telescope inside that couples out the light. And this is a baffle on the end of it that protects any scattering from the sun onto the sensors and cameras. And so we're doing a very high power laser system on the spacecraft, but there's the receiver on the ground actually is counting photons. So we're a very sensitive receiver, and that means on the spacecraft also it has a sensitive receiver for pointing. And so the critical part for the DSOC is that pointing the narrow microradian beams. Basically, you've got like a quarter mile range, it's very narrow. You're trying to point. It makes sense to the camera, those are pointing in the back of the telescope. So they couple in the front cover, so they just point down, the top is closed from the spacecraft.
And then, so when you guys talk about streaming, kind of go into detail a little bit about, should we be able to see the future, see space live? What's happening live down here?
Yeah. So basically, you're sending this information down. Instead of, you remember the first pictures of the Apollo landing, we get grainy videos of the Armstrong landing. Now we want to send HD, real TV down. So we want to see this in good, high quality. And so we're sending them down faster so we can access that information down. So basically, going from the very slow kilobits to gigabit level. This system is done in down to 100 megabits per second from close range. So we're actually be able to stream video, press it down, and be able to see more information. Thank you. Curiosity.
Bueno, si me ven que me callo es porque estoy tratando de dejar el sonido ambiente y a ver si logran escuchar. Entonces voy cambiando el micrófono del teléfono al micrófono mío. Entonces pueden escuchar bien ahora. Y como les dije, estamos esperando por grupos para bajar al clean room, donde vamos a poder ver la sonda bien de cerca. Estas son unas lindas reuniones que la NASA y JPL organizan cada vez que hay una misión importante, en este caso Psyche. La última vez que estuvimos acá fue con Lucy, hace 1 año y medio. Lucy ya está en camino a los asteroides troyanos y fue realmente muy emotivo poder verla justo cuando la estaban encapsulando dentro de la cofia del Atlas 5. Acá no sé exactamente, dudo que las cofias del Falcon Heavy estén aquí, pero seguramente le están en los últimos momentos de procesar la cápsula antes de llevarla a las instalaciones de SpaceX para que sea encapsulada. Pero quizás me equivoco, quizás la cofia esté aquí, así que puede ser que estén abajo, así que ya se los voy a mostrar. Y mi idea es tratar de salir en vivo Ahora voy a hacer un paneo para este lado, donde vemos más colegas esperando. Teresa, Max, Trevor. John. Say hi.
How are you?
Good, and you?
Good.
We're waiting. We're just waiting to para ir al clean room. Yo lo voy a dejar en vivo, yo sigo acá.
I know, like.
Yes.
Yeah, so we thought.
Is under siege here.
Oh. You're like, isn't she amazing? You get to watch the launch of the mission they worked on. And she.
Yeah. Lucy and the site have been part of this discovery conversation.
I'll try to find a photo and show you.
Wait, oh yeah, the time that changed.
You're like, you already had it.
Yeah.
We'll have to tell you.
It didn't roll off the tongue. It was just.
I'll tell you when it's done. It's done.
But she has said,
Sure. Bueno, no sé si me pueden... Voy a cortar el vivo ahora, porque seguramente en cualquier momento nos van a llamar para bajar, donde los tenemos que cambiar, y vamos a ir al clean room. Así que voy a intentar salir en vivo desde allá, y si veo que no se puede, bueno, simplemente haré videos, fotos para después editarlo y mostrárselos, pero ojalá, por lo que me están diciendo, podemos estar en vivo, así que voy a tratar de mostrarles las ondas Psyche en vivo, así que gracias por estar ahí.
like a Nikon battery.